Welcome, the anointed ones. The chosen are not born for comfort. They are born for calling. Stop for a moment. Do you feel it? That strange tension between the weight of your struggles and the quiet assurance that you're here for something bigger? It's no accident. When God said, "The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night," he wasn't just waxing poetic. He was declaring war on anything that dared to oppose your purpose. Here's a wild fact to chew on. The sun, at its core, burns at over 27 million degrees Fahrenheit. If God promises it won't smite you, that's no small statement. It's his way of saying, even the most powerful forces in the universe are subject to my will when it comes to you. But let's be honest, being one of the chosen ones isn't always sunshine and roses. Sure, it sounds glamorous, but the process is often more like surviving a boot camp run by God himself. And oh, he has a sense of humor. He'll shield you from the sun, but still let life turn up the heat, just enough to refine you. So buckle up, because this journey is equal parts mystery, majesty, and yes, moments of God, are you sure you picked the right person? The truth is, being chosen means you're playing a game that's rigged in your favor, even if it doesn't feel like it. Let's unpack this promise, one blazing sunbeam and shadowy moonlight at a time. You're about to see why the chosen ones are not just protected, they're unstoppable. Number 1. Divine favor comes with unseen battles. Being chosen by God is not a ticket to an easy life, it's a summons to a battlefield. The phrase, "The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night," is a powerful reassurance, but it also hints at the hidden realities of what it means to be chosen. The chosen ones are not ordinary people, they are marked, and that mark often attracts opposition. What makes them stand out also makes them a target. The sun and moon symbolize forces beyond physical threats. The sun represents the glaring, obvious challenges, those battles you can see coming from a mile away. These are the pressures you feel in broad daylight, public scrutiny, heavy responsibilities, or relentless demands. The moon, on the other hand, stands for the subtle, quiet struggles that creep in when no one is watching. These are the moments of doubt, the fear of failure, the loneliness that gnaws at you in the dark. Both are relentless, yet God's promise is clear. Neither will break you. Being chosen doesn't mean immunity. It means resilience. The heat of the sun might bear down on you, but it won't consume you. The shadows of the moon might try to haunt you, but they won't destroy you. God's protection doesn't remove the battles, it guarantees your victory through them. And here's the hard truth, those battles are not incidental, they are proof of your calling. The chosen ones are forged in fire, not spared from it. Every trial, every attack, every tear is shaping you into someone who can carry the weight of your purpose. To be chosen is to be refined, and while the process is not for the faint of heart, the result is undeniable. You emerge unshaken, unstoppable, and victorious. Number 2, chosen ones are walking paradoxes. Being chosen by God often feels like living in a contradiction. On the one hand, you're told you're special, set apart, called for something extraordinary. On the other hand, your life rarely feels like it. You wrestle with insecurities, make mistakes, and sometimes wonder if God got it wrong when he picked you. But this paradox is the very essence of being chosen. God uses the unlikely to achieve the impossible. The chosen ones aren't perfect. They're not the smartest, strongest, or most qualified. In fact, they're often the opposite, flawed, overlooked, or underestimated. And that's intentional. God isn't looking for perfection. He's looking for vessels he can work through. He doesn't call the equipped, he equips the called. The gap between who you are and what you're called to do isn't a flaw. It's the space where God's power shows up. Being chosen means living in tension. You carry a divine calling, but you also carry human weakness. You're bold in one moment and doubting in the next. You stand tall in public but crumble in private. This isn't hypocrisy, it's humanity. God uses this duality to keep you grounded, reminding you that your strength doesn't come from yourself, but from him. And here's the beauty of it. Your imperfections don't disqualify you. They're part of the design. When people see you accomplish what should have been impossible, they don't just see you, they see God. Your life becomes a living contradiction, and that's the point. You're not just chosen to succeed, you're chosen to showcase God's glory through your flaws, your victories, and everything in between. Being a paradox isn't a weakness. It's proof that you're walking in divine purpose. Number 3. The sun and moon represent cyclical oppression. The sun and moon aren't just celestial bodies. They represent patterns, cycles, and systems that govern life. For the chosen ones, these symbols take on a deeper meaning. The sun represents the things in plain sight, the oppressive systems, toxic environments, and visible challenges that seem impossible to escape. The moon, however, represents the subtle forces that work in the shadows, fears passed down through generations, unspoken expectations, and internal struggles that keep you locked in place. Together, they create a cycle, day and night, visible and invisible, that can feel unbreakable. But here's the promise: the cycle won't destroy you. God's protection doesn't just keep you alive, it breaks patterns designed to defeat you. Chosen ones are often born into situations that seem stacked against them. You might be fighting battles that didn't even start with you: family dysfunction, poverty, societal bias, or inner wounds no one else sees. The sun beats down with external pressures, while the moon whispers lies in the quiet hours. Yet God declares, neither will smite you. This isn't just a promise of survival. It's a promise of transformation. When you're chosen, the systems and cycles that once controlled your life begin to lose their grip. What was meant to trap you becomes the stage for your breakthrough. God doesn't just shield you from the sun and moon, He empowers you to rise above them. The generational curses stop with you, the fear stops with you, the patterns stop with you. You're not just surviving the cycles, you're breaking them for everyone connected to you. Being chosen means God's power works through you to turn oppression into freedom, and that freedom doesn't just belong to you, it becomes the inheritance you leave behind. Number 4. Chosen ones are set apart, not superior. Being chosen doesn't make you superior, it sets you apart, and there's a big difference. The world often equates being special with being above others, but God's version of being chosen flips that idea on its head. To be chosen means to be different, not better. It's not about standing on a pedestal. It's about carrying a purpose so unique that your journey has to look nothing like anyone else's. Being set apart often comes with a price: isolation. When you're chosen, you'll notice that the people around you might not understand your vision or your struggles. You might feel like you're walking a road no one else can see, and that's because you are. God doesn't give everyone the same assignments, and as a result, your life won't follow the patterns that seem normal to everyone else. This can feel frustrating and lonely, but it's part of the process. God isn't punishing you, He's preparing you. Pruning is another part of being set apart. The chosen ones often go through seasons where things, people, or habits are stripped away. It's not because you're unworthy, it's because God is removing what doesn't belong in your future. He's refining you, shaping you for the work ahead. Discipline becomes your foundation, teaching you to rely on Him and not on your own strength. This uniqueness isn't about pride or feeling better than others. It's about humility and responsibility. Being chosen doesn't mean you're more important. It means you've been entrusted with something specific, something that no one else can do quite like you. Your path may not look like theirs, but that's the point. You're not called to blend in. You're called to stand out, not for your glory, but for His. Number 5. God's promise is beyond the physical. God's promise to protect you from the sun by day and the moon by night goes far deeper than shielding you from physical harm. It's not just about the heat of the sun or the chill of the night. It's about the battles you face within and beyond what's visible. This promise speaks to the spiritual realm, where the real struggles unfold. God's protection reaches into places that no one else can see, places where fear, doubt, and despair try to take root. External pressures can be relentless: work demands, family expectations, financial challenges, or social pressures that weigh you down. They're like the blazing sun bearing down on you in plain view. Then there are the internal battles, the quiet wars of insecurity, shame, anxiety, and self-doubt. These are like the moon casting shadows over your mind when no one else is around to notice. God's promise addresses both. He doesn't just protect your body, He fortifies your spirit. When you're chosen, there's a level of spiritual resilience that God builds within you. Your body might feel exhausted, your emotions might waver, but your spirit remains untouched because God is guarding it. This isn't a promise of ease or immunity. It's a guarantee that no matter how intense the battle, you won't be overtaken. Even when you feel weak, when you think you're at your breaking point, His strength carries you. It's why some people look at you and wonder how you keep going. They don't see the divine protection over your soul. God's promise goes beyond the physical because He knows the spiritual is where the real attacks come. And no matter how fierce the fight, He's already declared victory over everything trying to consume you. Number 6. The night is when the chosen are refined. The night has a way of amplifying everything, your fears, your doubts, and your loneliness. It's quiet, but it's loud in your mind. The moon, with all its beauty, represents those moments of darkness when nothing seems clear. For the chosen ones, the night isn't a punishment, it's a process. It's in the darkness, when the distractions fade and the noise quiets down, that God does His most significant work in you. Being chosen doesn't exempt you from the night, it ensures you'll face it. Why? Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. The uncertainty of the night forces you to lean on God, to trust Him when you can't see what's ahead. Fear may whisper lies to you in the darkness, but this is when your faith becomes unshakable. The solitude might feel unbearable, but it's in those lonely moments that God strips away everything unnecessary so you can hear Him more clearly. God doesn't remove the night because it's essential to your refinement. The darkness tests your endurance, sharpens your character, and reveals your strength. The very things you think will break you are often the ones God uses to build you. And here's the beauty of it. He doesn't leave you to stumble blindly. He makes you a light, not just for yourself, but for others. When you emerge from the night, you're not the same. The fear that once paralyzed you is gone, replaced by a confidence that only comes from walking through the fire and surviving. The chosen ones are refined in the night, not to stay hidden in the darkness, but to shine as proof that even the deepest night has no power over those who are called by God. Number 7. The chosen are attuned to divine timings. For the chosen ones, life doesn't run on ordinary time, it runs on divine timing. The sun and moon, which govern the rhythm of days and nights, symbolize God's perfect schedule. Nothing in your life is random or out of sync. Every season, every moment, whether it feels like progress or delay, is part of a plan far bigger than you can see. Being chosen means you don't move according to human clocks. You move according to God's timeline. Delays, for instance, often feel like roadblocks. You might feel stuck, wondering why your prayers aren't answered or why things aren't falling into place. But in God's timing, a delay isn't a denial, it's a setup. What feels like stagnation to you is often divine preparation. God doesn't waste time, He uses it to shape you. Those waiting periods, they're where you develop patience, resilience, and trust in Him. While others may rush ahead, you're being prepared for something greater, something that requires a foundation built in the unseen. Being attuned to divine timing means learning to trust that everything happens when it's meant to, even if it doesn't match your expectations. It's understanding that closed doors aren't failures, they're redirections. It's knowing that every "not yet" is God's way of saying, "Hold on, I'm aligning everything perfectly." The chosen ones live differently because they know their path isn't governed by chance or coincidence. It's guided by divine appointments that unfold exactly when they're supposed to. What others see as setbacks, you recognize as part of the process. You're not behind and you're not late. You're exactly where you're meant to be. Trust the timing because when God says it's time to move, nothing in heaven or earth can stop you. Number 8. Chosen ones often feel the weight of isolation. Being chosen comes with a weight few understand. One of the heaviest parts of the journey is isolation. It's not the kind of loneliness that comes from a lack of people, but from the deep realization that no one fully gets what God is doing in you. Even those closest to you, friends, family, mentors, might struggle to understand your vision. It's not because they don't love you. It's because your calling is meant to disrupt what's comfortable, and most people cling to the familiar. God separates you for a reason. He's not punishing you or pushing you away. He's setting you apart so he can work on you without distractions. Think about it. How can you hear his voice clearly when you're constantly surrounded by noise? How can he mold you into a leader when you're blending into the crowd? Separation is painful, but it's also sacred. It's where God reveals things to you that others aren't ready to see. The weight of isolation often feels unfair. You might question why you're the one carrying this burden, why you can't just live a normal life like everyone else. But being chosen isn't about fitting in, it's about standing out. It's about being willing to walk a path that others won't dare to take. Loneliness becomes the price of leadership because leaders go first. They forge trails, challenge norms, and carry visions that others can't yet comprehend. But here's the comfort in the isolation. You're not alone. God is with you in every quiet moment, every misunderstood season, every step of the way. The very thing that separates you now will make sense later, when your obedience becomes the breakthrough for others. You're not isolated to be forgotten. You're set apart to be prepared. Number 9. Protection doesn't mean comfort. Being chosen doesn't mean life will be easy. In fact, it often means the exact opposite. God's protection is not about a smooth, trouble-free path. It's about surviving the storms, enduring the heat, and standing strong through the coldest nights. The shield of God doesn't remove hardship. It equips you to face it head-on and come out stronger on the other side. The heat of the sun represents the challenges that are obvious and relentless. People will see you struggle, they'll watch you fight through tough seasons, and they might even wonder why you haven't crumbled. The truth is, you're not immune to life's difficulties. What sets the chosen ones apart is their ability to endure. Resilience doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it with the unwavering belief that you won't be consumed by it. God's protection means you will survive the toughest moments, not because they don't hurt, but because they don't have the final say in your story. Then there's the cold of the night, the quiet, hidden battles that others don't see. These are the moments when you feel most vulnerable, when the isolation seems unbearable, and when doubt creeps in. Even in these moments, God's protection doesn't mean comfort. It means you'll make it through. The night won't last forever. You might not feel the warmth of the sun in every season, but his presence is constant. You'll emerge from these times stronger and more grounded in your purpose. The scars you carry aren't signs of failure. They're marks of survival. They're reminders of the battles you've fought and the faithfulness of God through every trial. The chosen ones are not defined by how easy their journey is, but by how they rise after each fall. Their scars are their testimony, proof that they were chosen not just to endure but to overcome. Number 10. The sun represents visibility, the moon, hidden struggles. Being chosen means living in two worlds at once, the one everyone sees and the one that remains hidden. The sun represents the public life, the visible success, the moments when you stand tall, recognized, and admired. It's easy to think that being chosen means being celebrated in the spotlight. But the truth is, for every moment of visibility, there's often a corresponding struggle in the shadows. The moon represents these hidden battles, the private fears, the doubts, the internal wars no one else sees but you fight every day. Your public life might shine brightly, drawing attention, praise, and even jealousy. People might look at you and think they've got it all together. But what they don't know is that beneath the surface, you're fighting battles that would make many crumble. The pressures you face in private, whether it's mental health struggles, unresolved trauma, or emotional exhaustion, are real. And they matter. God knows that the chosen ones are often expected to carry the weight of the world on their shoulders, all while keeping up appearances. But here's where his promise stands. He will sustain you in both realms, the visible and the invisible. You don't have to pretend that everything is perfect, and you don't have to carry your secret battles alone. What the world sees is just a fraction of the picture. God sees both the sunlit moments and the dark hours of your soul. His protection and strength aren't just for when you're in front of others, they're for when you're alone with your thoughts, in the quiet moments when no one is watching. The chosen ones are sustained not by their own strength, but by the unwavering presence of God who holds them up in both the light and the dark. Number 11. Being chosen is a burden and a blessing. Being chosen is not for the faint of heart. While it might sound like an honor to be called by God, the reality is that the path is filled with both burdens and blessings. It's easy to look at someone chosen by God and assume their life is full of grace and glory, but what many don't see is the weight they carry behind the scenes. The chosen ones are entrusted with more than just personal purpose. They are called to intercede for others, to break generational chains, and to wage spiritual warfare on behalf of those who may not even realize the battle is being fought. It's a heavy mantle to bear. Intercession is a daily part of the chosen one's life. They're not just praying for their own needs, but carrying the burdens of others, standing in the gap for people who might not have the strength or awareness to pray for themselves. It's a calling that demands emotional and spiritual energy, as the chosen are often the first to feel the weight of other people's struggles. This is not glamorous work, and it is rarely recognized, but it is essential. The chosen are like bridges, connecting heaven and earth through prayer, seeking breakthrough not just for themselves, but for entire communities or even generations. Alongside that burden comes spiritual warfare. The closer you get to your purpose, the stronger the opposition. The enemy doesn't waste time on those who aren't a threat to his agenda. If you're chosen, you'll face spiritual battles that can drain you, tempt you to question your calling, or make you feel isolated. Yet these struggles aren't the end of the story, they are just the proving ground for what is to come. Every battle fought, every hardship endured, is a step closer to the eternal reward God has promised, and that reward far outweighs any temporary struggle. The chosen ones carry weight now, but they will one day wear a crown that will last forever, and that promise makes every sacrifice worth it. Number 12. The chosen transform pain into purpose. Being chosen doesn't mean you're exempt from pain. It means that pain, no matter how intense, won't be your end. The promise that you won't be smitten doesn't suggest you won't face trials or fire. Rather, it means the fire won't destroy you. It's the kind of fire that refines you, shapes you, and brings out the strength you didn't even know you had. This refining process might feel agonizing, but it's not for nothing. The pain you endure becomes the catalyst for something greater. For the chosen, pain is never wasted. What might seem like a setback or a season of struggle is actually a process of transformation. Your trials will become the very thing that drives you toward your purpose. It's in your suffering that you learn resilience, empathy, and innovation. Those who've walked through fire often have the deepest wisdom and the most impactful solutions to offer, because they've lived through what others only fear. Their pain doesn't just teach them lessons, it propels them forward to help others who are stuck in the same dark places. The chosen ones are called to turn their pain into something that blesses others. The struggles they face give birth to innovations, breakthroughs, and legacies that would have never been possible without the fire. When you've been through the worst and still come out standing, you're able to look at the world with a different perspective. Your pain fuels your purpose, driving you to create, innovate, and leave a mark on this world that transcends your own experience. The very things that tried to break you become the foundation for the change you bring to the world. So when the fire comes, and it will, remember that it's not there to destroy you, it's there to build something eternal. The pain you feel today will be the legacy that blesses tomorrow. Number 13, chosen ones are a reflection of God's glory. Being chosen isn't just about personal triumph. It's about being a living testimony to the faithfulness and power of God. Your survival, your endurance through trials, and your ability to rise above every setback aren't just for your own benefit. They're a reflection of God's glory. The world watches you, not just as an individual, but as proof that divine promises are unshakable. When you walk through storms and come out stronger, people can't help but see that there's something greater at work in your life. You're not chosen simply to live your life in isolation. You're chosen to be a beacon for others. Your life becomes a mirror that reflects God's faithfulness, love, and unwavering commitment to His promises. When the world sees you walking through difficult seasons with your head held high, they don't just see you. They see the God who sustains you. Every challenge you face, every battle you win, and every victory you claim speaks louder than words. You are evidence that God's power is real, that His promises are true, and that His faithfulness can carry anyone through the darkest of times. Your journey isn't just your own, it's a public display of divine grace. People may not always understand your struggle, but they will see the outcome, and that outcome reflects the glory of the one who chose you. You're not just chosen to live in victory. You're chosen to be the evidence that God is who He says He is. Your life becomes a walking testimony, showing that when God is on your side, nothing can stand against you. You are a living, breathing reflection of the unshakable power of God's promises. Being chosen is a weighty calling, one that demands resilience, faith, and a deep understanding that your life is part of a much larger divine narrative. It's not about living a life of ease or being set apart for personal gain. It's about being called to stand firm in the face of challenges, to turn pain into purpose, and to reflect God's glory in ways that only you can. Through every trial, every moment of isolation, and every hidden battle, you are being prepared for something far greater than you can see right now. The world may not always understand your journey. It might look like struggle, pain, and even defeat to those watching from the outside. But the truth is, your life is a testimony of God's unshakable faithfulness. Your survival isn't just for you. It's a living, breathing declaration of His power and promises. You are a reflection of His glory, and your very existence proves that divine purpose can never be derailed. So when you feel overwhelmed by the weight of being chosen, remember, it's not a burden but a blessing. It's not about comfort, but about transformation. God's promise to protect you, guide you, and sustain you through every season is unwavering. The fire you walk through won't consume you, it will refine you. The struggles you face aren't meant to break you, they're meant to build you. The chosen ones don't walk through life unnoticed. They walk as living proof that God's plans are perfect and His timing is flawless. Stay grounded in the knowledge that you are exactly where you need to be. Your life is far from ordinary, it's extraordinary because it reflects the magnificent, unshakable glory of the one who called you. Keep pressing forward because the best is yet to come, and your story is one of divine victory. If this message resonated with you and you're ready to embrace the power of being chosen, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any more empowering content. Like, comment, and share with others who need to hear this. Together, let's continue to spread the truth that being chosen is a divine journey, and you are not alone on this path. Keep shining and stay tuned for more. God bless you.